Ready? Hi, welcome to the Splendid Life Show. Today's guest is Anastasia Nitri, and she helps all soul entrepreneurs to build lifestyle businesses that they love. And she's amazing at helping clients get crystal clear on their messages. And she inspires people to get crystal clear about messages so that they can get clients to work with them and get a full coaching practice. So I'd like to welcome Anastasia Nitri to the program. Hi, Anastasia.
Hello! So great to be here. Thank you for having me on your Splendid Life show, teaming.
Well, I'm excited to have you as a guest because I like to kind of, I guess, pick your brains as to how you got started in your coaching business and then, build it up to a thriving practice. So,
Sounds
okay.
great.
All right. So, can you tell us the story about how you got started in your coaching business?
Yeah, as painful as it is, I'll tell that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, I started really kind of trying to get clients as a coach back in, it was really about 2008.
Hmm.
And I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, but so I thought I knew what I was doing in order to build a business, but the coaching business really threw me for a loop. I really had no idea what I was doing and really struggled for like 2 years to get clients. I think at this point my business experience was working against me, which is why I always say like you're super smart if you just hire a mentor right from the get-go, because I was super independent and I wanted to figure it out, and that didn't work, and finally I fell to my knees and hired somebody who knew what they were doing, which was extremely helpful.
Uh-huh.
And I remember having a huge aha at the end of 2009 after 2 years of, I mean, literally, I just couldn't give my stuff away. And
Mm.
had a huge aha of like, I have this feeling about marketing. Like, I hated it. I just want people to sign up, and I didn't want to deal with anybody's concerns. And it's really, I hated it mostly because I just didn't know what I was doing. And of course, we don't really like things when we don't know how to do them.
Yeah.
And so I made a commitment at that time. I was like, if as good of a coach as I am, if I don't understand how to market myself, I will struggle forever. And I also realized that if I understood how marketing works, that I would never have issues getting clients or doing really anything I wanted to do. And so I began to pay attention and I began to study, and it wasn't an overnight process, but with that realization came a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that just started to make sense. And I ended up 8 months later. Yeah, that was in December. By June, I had a full practice, which was amazing. But it wasn't just a full
Mhm.
practice, it was a full practice at a rate that I could have never imagined charging. Like it was, I got really comfortable asking for money mainly because and here's the thing, it's a good tip for all of you guys.
Mhm.
I realized the benefit to the client of paying me a little bit more like than I was charging. I realized that they had more skin in the game and they were going to get more out of it. And sure enough, the minute I raised my fees, people were showing up, they were implementing, so my clients were getting better results. And by November, which was about not quite a year later, but almost a full year later, I hit the six-figure mark in my business, which was absolutely delightful. It was a rite of passage where I felt like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing now. And, it hasn't necessarily been a rosy, road since then. It's not like I've never had challenges or I had many failed launches and many things that didn't go well. But I've always like since 2009, whenever something wouldn't go well, I would go through the, oh, damn it, it didn't go well. And I would, throw my temper tantrum or lay down and cry or do whatever you have to do when you have a failed launch or people don't respond to things. But then rather quickly, usually within a couple of days, I would get back up and say, okay, what happened? Like, why didn't they buy? Why wasn't my offer compelling, or where did it not land for them? And huge learnings would come, and then the next thing would go much better. It's funny because I hit six figures in 2010, and even though I stayed at six figures for 2011, I also look at 2011, I call it my year of failure because it was like I had all this confidence, so I was trying all these new things, and I've rarely seen new things work out well the first time. Like, sometimes you have to go and do things two or three times. So I think I'm like your, typical, multi-year overnight success story. And I will say that one of the biggest things that kept me going is not letting things that didn't work out stop me. Like, I just learned from them, applied the learning, and moved on. Learned from them, applied the learning, and move on. I still do that. Like, I still have things that don't go well, but they always bring huge insights. So that's a little bit about how I got started, but I would always, recommend to everyone, the one thing that I always say, the one thing that will guarantee your failure is giving up. And if you just don't give up and keep at it, eventually something is going to work. So that's how it worked for me.
Yeah, that's a great encouragement, because sometimes people just give up, and then hey, they might be like, the next one could have been a success, but they would never know. Oh.
That's where, like, everybody who has any kind of success will tell you that. Like, it's a thing you hear over and over and over, which is, like, it's funny because, Michael Jordan has this quote about, like, I've I've missed game shots, I've lost a lot of games, and it's like, because of the failures that I've had and what I've learned from them, and that's why I'm successful. And everybody who's ever made any of their dreams happen will tell you, because it's really, ultimately, building a business is a very spiritual journey, and it's designed to take you out of your comfort zone and having you do things that don't feel comfortable, in the beginning. So it's important to just, keep applying and keep learning. So for sure.
Yeah, and I've heard that,
I'm
you
gonna.
know,
There we go.
so people have said that, being an entrepreneur is actually you're embarking on a hero's journey. So along the
Very
way,
much.
you're gonna have travails, but you're gonna have guides, people who help you along.
It
And
definitely helps to have a guide. Like, it's one of the things that I always say, if you are watching other people, like reading emails or looking at launches or anything like that from the outside,
mm,
trying to figure out what they're doing, you are missing out on like 90% of the mindset and strategy behind those things. So you're just like better off hiring somebody. I mean, and it's interesting because this is coaching, and coaches, healers, holistic practitioners is one of the only industries I've seen on the planet that people try to figure it out. It's like, being an entrepreneur is a skill set that, even if you're good at business, like, there's still things to learn from people who have learned them from other people, and so on and so forth. And it's one of the only things that people are like, well, I don't have the money, so I can't hire somebody until I get the money. And interestingly enough, we have a system called college that is, it's totally acceptable to go knock down, $100,000, $200,000 on an education that especially with an undergraduate degree, doesn't really guarantee you much of anything. Like, it doesn't guarantee you a job. Wherever you go to, you'll still have to get trained in it.
Mhm.
Most cases, you really can't make a college degree profitable until you've gotten a master's or a PhD. And
Mhm.
with an entrepreneur, like, you can spend $20,000, $30,000 in not, over a year or two period, and grow unlimited with this. So I've always thought it's a little funny. It's like sometimes you need to, spend a little bit of money. I mean, when I started, actually, one of the things that I did in the beginning was I had this. I needed, an investment for a coach and a project that I was working on that I knew would bring me a big return, and I didn't have the money. And I went to like several members of my family because I don't have a rich family, and I had this whole business proposition for them, got everybody on a conference call and was like, here's what I'm proposing, and if you're willing to invest a little bit in me, here's how I'll pay you back. I'll pay you interest. Here's the payment schedule, and so you'll make money and all the stuff. And they went for it, and so I ended up getting some financing to do some things in the beginning, and it worked, and I did get everybody paid back, and it was great. So
Oh,
that's for people who are like, well, I don't have the money. It's like, well, I didn't either. And I didn't have
yeah.
credit cards at the time. So anyway, I think it's just like kind of trusting. If you sign up for something and then you actually implement what your guide tells you to do, there's no reason why things can't work and you can't move forward a lot faster.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to tell everybody that Anastasia was my coach for putting on a telesummit.
Yeah.
So, and I just went ahead and did it, and it worked.
And it's like lots of learning. So like things went well, and then there's things to learn and apply for next time. I mean, that's how we all do, right? So it was
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm more comfortable with putting on a telesummit. I plan to put one on, like maybe 3, 4 months from now.
Yeah.
So, just try again, try and try again,
Try
because you
again.
always learn new things. Mm.
Hmm.
Can you tell us how you got started in your telesummit, expanding your business through telesummits?
This is actually an interesting story. One of the things that happened in 2009 with that declaration of I'm going to learn marketing and um, be open to opportunities is I met this guy. Um, And it was interesting. It's one of the ways I made the connections. I had a little blog talk radio show uh, where I would interview people, and he actually approached me about being interviewed on my show. And I said, "Oh, yeah, sounds good." And I interviewed him. And then we just kind of became friends. And I was telling him some of the struggles I was having. I only had a couple hundred people on my list, and barely had any clients. I think at the time I had 3 clients paying me $60 a month. So I was making a whopping $180 a month as a coach. And he was very well established and knew a lot of the big names. And he said, why don't you put on a telesummit? And I was like, what's a telesummit? I didn't even know. This was kind of before the explosion of them too, when they were
Yeah.
still relatively new.
Hmm.
And he said, how about this? Like, I'll introduce you to some of these big name people, and in return, you give me half of the money for the thing and share the list with me, and he'll kind of partner with me on it. So it's like it wasn't like I was just handing over the list to somebody they had never heard of. Like he
Right.
kind of stood up to be my partner in it. And I was like, actually, that's a hell of a deal because I knew I couldn't have done it without him. And so
Hmm.
he introduced me to all these people. He pretty much just got me the meeting. And then
Mm.
just between my passion and enthusiasm, I got a lot of big names to say yes. And still, it's funny, like, I still didn't do that good of a job because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have anybody kind of telling me what to do. I just sort of figured it out and ended up getting 4,000 new subscribers. So I went from a list of 200 people to 4,000 raving fans. And that was why it was easy for me to fill my practice, because on the call that I did for my telesummit, which interestingly enough, teaming, I didn't even know that I could do that. Like, I had lunch with one of the speakers,
Uh-huh.
which was a big deal for me to ask her out to lunch. I'm like, do you want to, maybe like we could have lunch? Like, I'll buy you lunch. What do you think? And so she agreed. And then she's like, so when are you speaking in the telesummit? I was like, can I do that? And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, yes. So I did, and then I just offered strategy sessions, and I was amazing. Like, I got over 30 applications. And out of that, I got my 11 new clients, which filled my practice. I had, no, it was 12. I got 12 new clients and filled my practice. And I was just charging $500 a month at the time. So I went from $180 a month as a coach to $6,000 a month as a coach. And it was just, oh, it was so good because I hadn't even made that much money. Like, that was great. I was like, woohoo! And then a little while later, I launched a group program to that list, and that's what threw me over the six-figure mark, which, by the way, the six-figure mark is $8,400 a month. So I went from 6,000, I got a little over 20 people in a group and did that. And so, yeah, I think it was just opening up to opportunities and saying yes. And it's funny, when he mentioned this to me, I didn't even say yes right away. Like, I
Uh-huh.
had to think about it and just go through, can I do this? And all the fear that I had coming up around feeling like a small fish in a big pond. Like, I'm talking to some of these people who have, followings of 80, 100,000 people. It's funny, one of them who had a huge following was like, so how big's your list right now? And I was like, it's like 300. And lucky for me, she still said yes. But, it was just, it was an overall amazing experience of just stepping into something much bigger and figuring it out as I went. You're really good at that, T. Ming. You just like kind of dive in with both feet. And you're like, I'll just figure it out. That's kind of how it works.
Well, thanks. Yeah. So I'm always inspired when you talk about the stories because
Yeah.
it just makes me want to just like, oh yeah, I can do it. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, this help.
exactly. Well, you can. You did. That was amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So I wanted to know like the idea of partnering with other people because that's essentially what you did through the telesummit, partnering with other people. How would you advise coaches who are just starting? How do you partner with other people? How do you approach people to be your partners?
Great question. So one of the things that I think is good, especially in the beginning, like if you're looking to partner with people, and I'm guessing what you mean by that is like having other people promote you and you promoting them, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So a great way to begin is with a little group of strategic alliances. So what that is as opposed to if you go out there with the intention of who can I get to promote me, it doesn't really land well for anyone. Like, I get emails from people all the time that I know they just want me to send out something to my list, and it feels really icky. It feels like I'm being used, and I don't
Mm,
like that, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So one of the first things that you want to do is just you kind of start off with building relationships, like making friends. Like, a great way to do it is in group programs that you're taking, at like live events where there's like-minded people in the room.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, doing a telesummit is a great way to make those connections. But you kind of start with like, let's think about the what I do and the people that I'm serving, and who might be a complementary service that I don't provide. I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
Um, like, I teach people how to market. So I've got a group program, a year-long group program that I'm running right now. And one of my weak spots, like the thing that I just kind of suck at teaching, like I'm great at teaching a lot of stuff, but I kind of know what I suck at too.
Uh-huh.
And that's teaching people how to have those in really powerful enrollment conversations. Like I can teach it, but I'm not that good at it. And so there's a person that he is so good at it. Like, he's studied it the way that I've studied marketing. Like he studied all the different nuances of these conversations. So I actually agreed to bring him into my program to teach my people about these enrollment conversations. So he would also be somebody that would be great for me to promote to my list, because I know my list needs this service. I also know that he's better at it. Now, I want to take one little tangent off real quick. It's one of the biggest reasons why you kind of want to narrow down a niche as much as you can, because when you're trying to be everything to everyone, you can't help but be a little bit more competitive because you're trying to be everything to everyone. When you get clear on what it is that you do and what you do really well, and what your zone of genius is, it automatically opens you up to a more collaborative business model. Because like, I know what I'm really good at, I know what I suck at, but I also know that my people need this thing. So let me find an expert in that. And then let me find an expert in, like, branding is one of those things that I get some of the concepts behind it, and I can teach people a few things about branding, but there's people that are just much better at that than me. Like, I'm really great with content, but coming up with your brand and colors and visual identities, I'm like, that's not my thing. So anyway, so with your thing, whatever your thing is, for those of you who are watching, it's like, if you think about, here's some people that have complementary services, and then you kind of look for people who have a list size. Like when you're beginning, none of the big partners are really going to play with you at that point. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So like if you've got a list of 300, let's say that you got strategic alliance relationships with, say, 6 other people that had a list anywhere from 300 to 500. And what you all agreed to do as a group is just like promote the shit out of each other. You're just like, you know what? I'm going to show up for you. Like when you have a call, my people will like get a couple of emails from you. I can interview you to my list, really show you off. When you've got 5 or 6 people doing that, now your reach goes from 300 to, say, 1,500 or 2,000. And chances are you're all still doing things to continually build your list. So every time your friend promotes you, the pool of people gets slightly bigger. So as you grow together, you might find that you all start with a list of 300, but 2 years later, now those same strategic alliance partners all have lists of 5 or 10,000. So now when you're promoting each other, you don't get, 50 people sign up for your call, you get 2,000, right? And so that's, I think, the best way to start, is start with a little group of strategic alliances and just be like, we're going to show up fully for each other. We're going to, as opposed to trying to get 50 partners, just have a few. And interestingly enough, big industry players do this with just a few people. And so it means that, like, as you're promoting other people, that you've just got a few. And the good thing about it is, let's say, Team Ming, let's say you and I agreed to be strategic partners, right? So I did a launch. You really send people to me. Now, because we're strategic alliances, all these other people are sending people to me. Now, when I turn around and promote you, your people get to see you again, right? So it's not like you're sending them off into a pipeline that will never see you again.
Right.
So it's like, it's a way, like when your people get an email from me promoting you, it's like, oh, right, and they might see mine instead of your email, that kind of thing. So it just works great.
That's a wonderful tip, because I just went for this joint venture Insider Circles live event.
Yes.
Yeah. And then met a lot of other people doing great work, and just excited about connecting with them. And as you say, I'll take your advice on building like a strategic alliances with them.
Good thing to do with that group. It's funny, I just went to a retreat where I saw some of the industry leaders that were there, and they told me about the JV Shark Tank.
Oh yeah, the
I'm
Shark
like, that's
Tank.
so cool. Like, so it's like everybody got to, a few people applied to present their idea to all these people with big lists, and then some of them had all these people wanting to. That's brilliant. I would
Yeah.
have loved to have gotten that opportunity in the beginning. That's hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that all the other attendees didn't get any benefits. They did,
Oh,
because
sure.
by seeing what other people, the questions that the sharks were
Yeah.
asking, they
Yeah.
know that, oh, this is what they're looking for, if I want to play
Exactly.
big. Yeah.
Exactly. And again, like, before you play big, you've got to be willing to play full out at the level that you're on. So it's
Mhm.
like, as opposed to worrying about people with lists of 20,000, focus on getting a few with a list of 500, and then you grow together, because all of those people that are sitting there with those enormous followings, I mean, they all paid their dues just the same way. Like, they didn't come, like, everyone you saw up on that stage in that JV Shark Tank is a 5-year overnight success story. Every single one of them. Nobody started with like some massive following. They all grew it and nurtured it and screwed up and kept going and
I know.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. And the next thing I wanted to ask you was about how did you build your support team? Because it's, right now I'm starting as a solopreneur,
Hmm.
and I want to try to free up my time so I can do more of the stuff that I love.
Hmm.
How did you build your support team?
I had a friend of mine, again, it's kind of mentorship. It was a little bit informal, meaning that I wasn't paying him, but it was one of these people that we had complementary areas of expertise. Like, he was not really that great at marketing. I was, and he was great at live events and delegating. So we just kind of traded expertise.
Mm.
But he was the one who really taught me about delegating. And one of the things that I have really embraced is working with people overseas. I think that, when you're going into an area of the world where the cost of living is lower, it's really a very good match with an American solopreneur who just doesn't have a couple $1,000s a month to spend on help, but really needs it. So somebody else who's got, like, where they live, a dollar goes a lot longer way. Just a few $100s a month can fully support them well, and you can get the help that you need. So I started to do that, and again, it wasn't an overnight thing. I always say sometimes you have to go through 3 assistants to get to your assistants, right? So it's one of those things of, if you hire somebody and it doesn't go well, just change your passwords and do it again, and look for maybe why it didn't go well. Again,
Mm.
things like, what do I need to make sure to put in my ad next time to avoid this situation? Oh my God.
Oh, it's your doggy.
That's my dog doing this thing with her throat. Oh my God. Hang on one second.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. It's
It's like
okay.
this horrible sound. Bella.
I think she
Come here,
misses
you
you,
sweet
huh?
thing. This is her.
Oh.
Bella. This is the thing Chihuahuas do.
Oh.
Oh.
It's okay. It's all right. It's funny.
Bella, you're embarrassing me.
It's okay. No
I
problem.
hate it when she does that. Okay, there we go. Oh, she's getting over it. There we go.
Oh. Oh, she wants to be on camera. Yeah, that's right. Hey.
Okay, there she is. Bella, you're on TV. Okay, she'll stop in a minute. It's this little Chihuahua thing that they do with their throat to get
Yeah.
their something back in alignment. It falls out of alignment, so she's not hurting or anything. It's
Mhm.
just something she do, and it's
It's
it's irritating when other people can hear it. Okay,
okay.
she's
It's
about to
all right.
stop. There we go. Okay, good.
Yeah, she dealt with it.
Okay, Now I can just put her here and she'll be all cute and stuff. There we go. Okay, so I'm ready. I'm pressing
Okay, okay. So, how, okay, how did you manage your team? How do you manage your team, your support team?
So, some of the things that I do with my team is, I pretty much communicate with them via Skype and email, but here's actually a good delegating tip, because there's many things and we could have a whole 2-hour call on how to manage a team, but I'll give you one tip. One of the things that really works great is to not micromanage your team, meaning I think what trips people up a lot when it comes to delegating is that they think I have to know how to do it in order to delegate it, right? So it gets very overwhelming thinking about hiring somebody, because you think I'm going to need to train them by showing them this or this or this or this. What I find works really well is to tell the team ultimately the outcome that you want, and then have them figure out how to do it. So like when I've had things like sales letters, like I'll say, okay, I want you guys to make a sales letter. Here's the content. Here's 3 or 4 sales letters that I really like. Like, I like the look of this. I like the way that this is laid out. I like the pictures she did here. So figure out how to make that, right? And then they can figure it out. Between Google and YouTube and training videos on certain kinds of software, everything is figure outable. So I always say, when you're delegating, instead of saying, like, let's say you use, one shopping cart or something for your contact database, you don't need to show them how to use one shopping cart. You just need to give them access, allow them to watch some training videos, and tell them ultimately what you want them to do, and then they'll figure it out. And then, there's going to be certain questions that they have, but one of the questions I always ask in an interview is, what do you do when you don't know how to do something? And the answer that I'm looking for is, well, first I do a Google search, then I ask one of my friends, then I ask my mother, then I read a book, and then I go to the library, and if that doesn't work, then I ask you. And that just kind of, that's sort of what you want in an assistant, is somebody who's like a bit of a self-starter and will just be like, I'm not going to stop until I make this work. So that's a good tip. That's part of how I manage them. And then, keeping things organized with spreadsheets and stuff. But yeah. So hire somebody and let them figure out how to do it.
Do you give them like a time limit as to when they can, like,
Sure.
get stuff?
Yeah, sure. Communicating deadlines is always a really good way, like giving them a bit of a framework. So you just like tell them what you want and when you need it by, and just let them go do it. And of course, if they've got questions, they can come ask you. One thing that you can also do is another thing I do with my people. If like we're doing something on a regular basis, like queuing up one of my blog posts in an email. So once they figure out how to do that, I will have them literally write out the steps and sometimes even put in screenshots. I have a Google document called ALN Enterprises Operations Manual. So as they're learning tasks, they'll put it, and then it's interesting because I have 2 assistants. Sometimes I'll have the other one do it just to make sure that they can easily follow the steps. And then that way, if one of my assistants doesn't work out or anything, I can just say, here's the document on how to do a blog post, so they don't need to be trained again. If you are having to show them how to do something, another way to do it is by just recording your screen. So you can just like record the screen and say, click here, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then upload it to YouTube, keep the video as unlisted, and then you've also got like training videos. So it's easy to show them how to do stuff. So yeah, between having them do an operations manual, doing training videos, and having them figure things out, and write down once they figured out how to do it. Like
Uh-huh.
I've actually had my assistants train me on certain things. Like the first time I did a Google Hangout, I was like, figure out how to do a Google Hangout and then write me a document with all the steps. And they did.
Mm.
And then it was
Mhm.
super easy because they
Mm.
had the time to do the research and I didn't.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So you do pay them for their research time, right? Yeah, like
Well,
when they
see, my
learn stuff.
assistants are full time, so they only work for me. And
Mhm.
so, and of course, being an entrepreneur, the time varies. So I pay them the same. Um, like they're on salary. So some weeks they might work a little more than others, but most weeks it's like, I mean, some weeks they might work 10 hours, where like another week where they're maybe doing a big project or I'm in the middle of launch, maybe they'll work 50 hours, but it all kind of comes out in the wash because the next week I'm like, oh, I just need a few tasks done.
Mhm.
And if they have done like a lot of extra work for an extended period of time, I'll usually send them like a little bonus or something like that. And they're very happy. Like they'll be like,
Mhm.
"Woohoo, extra money."
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I recommend that when you get an assistant, you don't do a pay by the hour assistance because they're kind of like that. That makes it harder for an assistant to go do the research. Like if they're full time and it takes them 10 hours to figure something else out, it's not that big of a deal. But if they're on an hour, you're going to want them to hurry. So, and sometimes, overseas assistants, I mean, they can be full time for $400 or $500 a month. So it's like, okay, figure this out, and then you're not like watching the clock as they do it. That's what I do.
Mhm.
That makes
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, do you have a time frame for them to like learn, well, this is get back to me by like 2 days later after you've learned this? Because I have tried hiring somebody from overseas. So my problem was sometimes you say a deadline and they miss it or they take so long to learn it. How do you kind
Well, there's two things you could do. Either, get more strict with the deadlines or fire them and get somebody who does meet the deadlines.
of? Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, this is what my friend told me when I started delegating. He's like, the first time that you think about firing somebody, fire them because
Hmm.
you don't start, it's like a dysfunctional relationship. It's like
Hmm.
if you're in a relationship with a man or a woman, like a romantic relationship, and you're starting to fantasize about breaking up with them or being with other people, your relationship probably isn't working. So you
Hmm.
can, like, I've had one assistant that has screwed up a couple of times, and I mean, they'll screw up for sure, but sometimes it's just good training. It's like, okay, you've screwed up. Let's look at what happened here, how to prevent this. And also, sometimes I've realized that some of the reasons they're screwing up is because my leadership has been bad. Like, I haven't been clear with them of what I wanted and how I wanted it.
Hmm.
So I've been better at, like, sometimes going, okay, these are the 6 steps to doing this thing. So follow these steps. So it's kind of like sometimes you got to work on things, but if somebody's just not being a good employee, then you might need to get somebody else. But just like with any relationship, you try to work it out. But I always say if your employees are consistently, like if you're hiring other employees and they're consistently missing stuff, you might want to look in the mirror and say, how can I be a more effective leader? Like
Hmm.
what am I missing, or what am I not clear about, or where do I need to manage my expectations of what other
Hmm.
people are capable of? And have a combination of those things. But it's just like you just kind of have to feel it out. I've been with certain people that I'm just like, yep, you need to be fired. And certain employees that have screwed up multiple times, but they're so good that I'm sort of willing to work through those things. And then they become better employees as a result of it.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, those are great things to know. Um, I want to know, how do you design your life so
Mhm.
that when you go on vacation, you don't have to worry about your business?
Well, you know, this is the thing. Like, so I've got what some of the industry leaders call a lifestyle business. So this is a little bit different than a business that you're consistently wanting to grow. Like there's the kind of like, no matter what, we are always going to be looking at how to have more, do more, go bigger, go bigger.
Mm.
I don't really do that. So I kind of got clear on the business that I wanted, the money that I wanted, the schedule that I wanted. So I grew to a certain point, and then I'm like, okay, we're good here. Okay. So I'll tell you from my lifestyle business perspective, like one of the things I always like to keep growing is my email list, but as far as how much money I'm making and the people that I'm serving, I've never been super interested in making millions of dollars. It just feels like too much work. Like I actually became an entrepreneur because, you know, I like to serve and all that stuff, but I'm kind of lazy. So I don't really like working hard for the sake of always having more. Like that just never really appealed to me. So I finally got to the place where I'm like, here's what I need to have plenty of money and plenty of freedom at the same time. Freedom is my number one value. Okay, so that's pretty much, that's why I say old soul entrepreneurs, because they typically have that value system. They're just like, I just want enough money to finance the cool stuff I want to do, and I don't really need much more than that. With that said, you know, I have two things that I do, and two things really only, which is I have a group program that I run, and I have a small handful of private clients, and that's it. And so I have organized my schedule so that I have a week off every single month. And one thing I've noticed is like, you know, as far as like stuff running without me, like there's nothing really, you know, it's like I can, like my weekly videos can be queued up ahead of time. My assistants can sort of manage anything that's coming in, but I don't have a lot of stuff coming in that would wig me out too bad to take time off. Also, my clients kind of celebrate me for taking that time off because they want the kind of business that I have. Like that's what appeals to them. That's why they hire me. And so, you know, when I say these are kind of the boundaries that I work in, and this is my week off every month, and so by holding this example for you, I can help you have a similar lifestyle. They're always like, ooh, have your week off. You know, they really celebrate it. So when I'm on vacation or things like that, I typically just don't really worry about a whole lot of stuff until I get back, because my clients know I'm going on vacation, and they're all like, have a good time, Anastasia. You know? So I wish I had a better answer, but if you have you know, somebody that you interview that does have kind of the constant business growth model, and they have a team running things, might be able to give you like more of a strategy than that. But I'm just like, I just take my time off and work when I get back.
I think that works, you know. So I
Yeah.
really applaud you for that, because, you know, that's what I want to be able to do. Take time off in the summer and
Yeah.
not have to worry, you know,
And you know,
go.
that could just be
Yeah.
in the way that you plan like your clients. Like if you know you have 6-month clients and you want to break like a couple of months, like you, first of all, you have to manage your money. Very important. So
Yeah.
like if you know that there's months without that income, that you make sure to have money in the bank to cover the expenses for those months so you don't go broke. I've learned that lesson the hard way multiple times, right? And also you can just be like, okay, I'm going to work with people till this date, and then I'm going to take a couple of months where I have a little bit of a lighter schedule, and then I'll come back on this date and, you know, do another offering and get some more clients, you know. So it's really, it could just be where you're taking sporadic time off, but if you're the kind of person who likes a month unplugged, you might want to plan your business to just not have a lot of clients during that time. You know, so like the year program that I've got 2 months that I won't be running that program, so it's a good time for me to take a little bit of a break from clients and just have like a month of some downtime where I actually don't have clients needing stuff from me. Because there's certain things that like I give my clients email access, and so I let them ask me questions and stuff over email. So it's like unless they know ahead of time that I'm going to be unplugged for a couple of weeks and just know that, that works fine too. So just letting your clients know when you'll be out of town and not able to respond to them, or planning your schedule around having a month where you just don't have any clients and you've budgeted for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. Um,
Mhm.
Another thing I'm interested is how do you deal with stress?
I take a week off every month.
Just plan
I,
time off.
and it's funny because this is kind of a new thing that's about to be implemented, but that's how I'm going to be managing. Now, I think that I heard this said by another mentor, which so this didn't come from me, but um, it's kind of called your non-negotiable time. One of the things that I do, now I don't do this every single day, but I do this probably 90% of the time, is I have a little bit of a morning routine. So I
Mm.
like to get up in the morning and I like to mess around for 30 minutes. I don't like to rush anywhere. I like to go, get my water, make my coffee, and just check my email on my iPhone, which is normal morning behavior, which some people might think is not a good way to manage, but I like it. It wakes me up.
Uh-huh.
So, and then I go walk my dog, and so her and I will go for a walk, and then I'll come back home and journal or meditate or stretch or do something for just about 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like to take a nice hot bath in the morning after, just kind of relaxes me. And then get dressed and go to work. So ideally, that morning routine takes a couple of hours. So I try to start my work day around 10 or 11, and I usually am up by 7 or 8. So I've got just some time. That helps a lot. I really feel it when I don't do that. When
Mm.
I don't have that morning time, just time for me. And also, one of the things that's great about that is I often think, like when I'm out walking my dog or 8 at 9 in the morning, I'm like, most of the world is on their way to work, sitting in rush hour, and look at me, look at this great life I have. I'm just out
Uh-huh.
walking my dog, and then I get to get home and get on the phone and help people all day. Like, so it's a time where I get really grateful about the
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle that I have, and then I make sure to have time off. So there's also another thing in being an entrepreneur that I call dynamic balance, because a balanced life isn't, I mean, it fluctuates. So sometimes as an entrepreneur, you're working on things that require you to be super busy for 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever, like if you're doing a launch or a telesummit. A
Mm-hmm.
telesummit is usually, like, people think it's months of work. I'm like, it's really not. It's about 1 month of kind of hardcore work, mainly while you're getting everything set up. And then once the interviews are going, it's like it gets a little, it's not as hard once everything's going.
Mm.
But there's about a month where you're getting all the stuff and the copy and the website and everything. And those are months where I'm like, yep, I could easily work 12 hours a day.
Mm.
But if I know that that's coming up, I'll make sure during that time that I have a day or two that's just totally unscheduled, where I can do what I need to do, which sometimes may just be laying in bed watching movies all day, or have some fun with my friends, or go to get a massage or whatever. And then I'll make sure to have some space after to take some downtime. So like I just went through that with a launch that I did where I was, for 2 months, I was doing an amazing, like, tons of strategy sessions and was super busy, and there was sometimes 9-10 hours a day I'm on the phone. And now we're going into December and I'm about to have 3 weeks off to just kind of recalibrate and ground and push the control alt delete on my life, is what I call it.
Reboot.
So don't beat up on yourself if you go through times that are kind of like busy. Just make sure to plan in some downtime. And even during those times, you could go for a little walk, like things in the morning, little walks, some exercise, a little meditation, maybe a nice hot bath, can be just great ways to just have some time and to yourself. So that's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, nourish yourself. Yeah, that's great. I should do more of that. Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes it just actually starts with like actually writing down a little morning routine. like I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and have it somewhere that's handy where you could see it and literally follow that schedule. It's like, okay, I want 90 minutes in the morning. I won't start my day before, like if you like to start early even, like I'll start my day at 8:30, I'll wake up at 7. It gives me these 90 minutes. So you can have, like you can structure that any way that you want. And then just like, I mean, it's funny because I've gotten kind of off my normal routine being as busy as I have the last couple of months. And so I was about to start that like next week as I go on vacation. I was going to like write down the morning routine and follow it so that when I come back in January, I'm kind of in the habit again, you know. So again, and that's the thing, you get off track, you just get right back on. So happens to all of us.
Yeah, it's like me and my boot camp for the gym thing, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
you can get back in January.
Exactly. You just get back on the horse. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. So, let me see. I would want to ask you, as somebody who's me, I'm new to the industry and things like that. So, what advice would you give to someone who's starting their coaching practice? How do you fill your, slots and things like that? You know, just
Okay. One of the things that I always recommend is when you're new, first thing to remember is things don't happen overnight. That's a huge thing. But also, you really want to be looking at giving as much or even more attention than getting clients is to getting subscribers to your email list and building relationships, because that, like, when you start to focus on that, 3 months from now, when you've gotten, depending on what you're doing, you could have like get a couple hundred new subscribers a month, and 3 months from now, when you send out an email to your clients saying, hey, I've got room in my practice, who would like a strategy session and talk about how we can change your life in this way, and this way, and this way, you'll have much more response. It's just easier to do things with an email list. So I always say you want to put a dual focus on getting clients and building your list, and not one or the other. Like if you're doing just one or the other, you're kind of missing a piece. So there's a jillion ways to market. It's funny, I just had a coaching session with somebody right before this, and I've got kind of this list of here's 10 ways to get new clients. On the last session, I handed it to her and I said, I just want you to sit with this, because rather than doing all of these 10 things, I would rather you pick 2 that we do consistently. So like if you want to speak and that's your way of getting new clients, then let's put all the eggs into speaking engagements, and it could be virtual speaking engagements like teleseminars and telesummits, and then live speaking engagements. So let's go for that route. And then let's do maybe one that's really like run a Facebook ad campaign that helps you get new subscribers to your email list by offering them just some juicy instant gratification kind of free gift, and then sending them something on a regular basis like a newsletter or video to build relationships. So I say, like, there's all of these gurus out there that say you have to do it this way, you have to do it this way. Let me just tell you right now, you absolutely do not. What you'd be better off doing is to pick a couple things that turn you on and do those consistently. One of the things, like this, like teaming, this thing that you're doing, you're like, I like doing interviews on Google Hangouts. So it's a great marketing tool. It's like you get out there, you give value, you're building up relationships with people. People are getting to know you, which is great. You can be telling them to subscribe to your list and that kind of thing. So this is one example. Like, I hated writing newsletters, even though I'm a good writer. I just didn't like it. I dreaded it. I'd put it off, and sometimes I wouldn't send something out but I really like doing videos. I really like that. It's really easy for me to sit down in front of a video camera and be like, okay, let me just talk to you and tell you what, and here's a couple tips. And so that works for me. So I found what turned me on and started to send those out on a regular basis. And then I went to from having, 30 people look at my videos to now it's, between 300 and 600, so still not huge numbers, but they're getting engagement, and I send them out every week. So the more I send them out, the higher up, the more people begin to watch them. And so, like, you'll notice that there's, like, people who have been sending out a weekly video for, like, 2 years or 3 years. That's when they'll start getting thousands and thousands of views per every video. But that's what it takes to get those kinds of numbers. You don't hit them overnight. Consistency and focus. Just to sum it up, consistency and focus. Do a couple things on a regular basis. Track your results. And that's the best way to get new clients and start a coaching business. I mean, there's more.
Right.
That's just a quick tip I can give you.
Yeah, that's great, So I do love interviewing people because it's fun for me. I learn lots.
That's one of the things on my list, by the way, is conducting interviews. So it's like you can either be interviewed or you can even conduct interviews. And conducting interviews brings new subscribers and stuff like that. We'll have to talk about that on our next session.
Yeah, and actually, I also enjoy being interviewed because I was interviewed by Gina Hyatt some weeks ago, and it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, how can people reach you if they want to learn more about your work? What's the best place to go?
You can just go to my website. I have it's my free gift on my website, but it's really good. It's a video training called 5 Reasons Why Your Marketing is Not Attracting High Quality Kick-Ass Clients and what to do to enroll with these. And there's some, super juicy nuggets within that training. You can really learn a lot. And so if you just go to my website, which is, I'll give you an easy URL that points to, it's Anna Netri, ANANETRI.com, ANANETRI.com, and you'll see on the side there's that video training, and it's really good. So go there and check that out and get rolling, and then of course if you want to go further from there, you'll get an idea about how I work and if you like it, and we can go from there.
Yeah, so everybody go check out www.ananetri.com for wonderful, juicy tidbits of how to coach and get clients and things like that. Thank you so much, Anastasia. Yeah, I appreciate you coming to this program, and I'm excited to work further with you. Okay, so thank you everybody for watching. All right.
Thank you, teaming. Bye, everyone.